Hello, everyone. As the gaming industry continues to grow and evolve, new technologies such as blockchain have the potential to disrupt the traditional models of intellectual property. And in a discussion we will have with our members of the BGA, we will explore the potential benefit of using blockchain in gaming IP management, the ways in which blockchain technology can be leveraged to create new opportunities and business model to game developers, to players, to publishers. So we're going to talk about try to cover a lot of different aspects of this question and this area with our members. And obviously, at first, before we do that, is to ask everyone to introduce themselves. So I would start with you, Florence, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Flavien. Hi, everyone. I'm Florence Houisse. I'm an IP attorney based in Paris. I'm a partner in a law firm. I work in all kind of industry involving intellectual property right, but through the years, I've built a strong expertise in the video game industry. And as there are obvious bridges between video game industry and blockchain game industry, I also started to work for a video game studio using blockchain. That's
Yeah,
it.
no, that's perfect. I thought you were continuing. That's perfect. Thank you very much, Florence. Thank you for that. It's going to be interesting to capitalize on your expertise with helping game companies with their IP concerns and try to have your opinion on how blockchain actually might change things or not. And that's why it's going to be a very cool conversation with you. Lida, it's a pleasure to have you as well from Spaceport. I would love to know more about what you do as well.
Thanks. Yeah, my name is Lida. I'm CTO and co-founder of Spaceport. We are a IP licensing platform for Web3. And my background actually comes from a video game background as well. I help build a couple of billion-dollar franchises like BioShock and Saints Row. And so, that's kind of partly why we got into this space is we want to bring recognizable IP and brands from the real world Web2 world into Web3 gaming, blockchain gaming, and specifically. So our goal at Spaceport is to help creators, brands, and agencies to monetize their IP and to bring that, broadening their reach into the broader blockchain space.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Lida. Amine, same question for you. It's a pleasure to have you. Could you introduce what you do at Gokaden?
Yes. So hello, everyone. I'm Amine. I'm CEO and the founder of Gokaden. So we are building a decentralized entertainment platform. Our goal is to bring together fans, creators, artists, creative AIs, and entertainment company to collaborate and build multimedia franchises from bottom up. And for that, of course, we have the blockchain technologies. We have all the great tools that we have right now, but we don't have a real infrastructure. So you have to imagine Gokaden as the ArtStation / Reddit, where people can collaborate, give feedbacks, and of course ensure their creative IP and share it with the world.
That's awesome. We will deep dive into everything you do and how community is really important in managing the IPs with blockchain as well. So it's going to be a very cool interaction we'll have together. And starting with the beginning, actually, with you, Florence. So you advise a lot of game companies protecting their IPs, their game, but how can game companies actually protect their games in the first place?
Yeah, that's a huge question. First thing first, the name and logo of the game can obviously be protected as a trademark. It's like the first thing to do to protect the name under which you are going to be visible for the public. will allow the video game studio to prevent third party from using an identical or similar name or logo for identical or similar products or services. So that is a first thing to do. And then this is the massive part and the more complicated part. You have to understand that a video game by itself can be protected by copyright if it's original. The video game can be protected by copyright, but also each component of the video game, like music, scenario, all the graphics, the name of the character, even the interface, the source code, etc. So there is a huge work to secure by appropriate agreement the ownership of the studio of all the copyright on the different elements of the video game. So the first thing is for a video game company to determine what is the creation process of the video game, and depending on the creation process, the company will have to determine which agreement it will have to enter into. That's the first thing. And the other thing, and it works for any creator or author, you have to keep record and evidence of your creation process. You have to track all the documentation that leads to the final creation, because when you have an issue and when it comes to a litigation, you will have to demonstrate that you are the owner of the right, and for that, if your creation is still confidential, the only way to do this for you, it will be to have documents or registration, and that will help you to demonstrate your ownership. So the main way for a video game company to protect their game and is to secure the right by entering into appropriate agreements, I would say.
Yeah. And we'll see if this is a huge work. And do you think that blockchain with the technology itself and is helping and could help to make it easy, make this process easier and maybe faster to protect every aspect of the game itself?
Yeah, it might be, because for now, blockchain proof has not been recognized as admissible in the entire world, but there are already jurisdictions which accept this kind of evidence. So for now, in my law firm, but we are more and more to offer that to our clients, we suggest to document the creation process through the blockchain. Like we register and mint every creation, and it's like a stamping, you know. So that will allow companies to document their creation process faster and for a cheaper cost.
Easier and cheaper cost for documentation. Got it. Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot, Florence. Lida, based on that, so we're talking now about blockchain. There is a lot of there are a lot of concession based on, do you really own your NFTs, and could you really claim the ownership of what you have inside your NFT in terms of the creative process of this NFT, the image or the video and everything around? What does owning an NFT really means in your opinion?
I mean, there's basically two ways of looking at it. One is like a technical perspective. What do you put actually on the blockchain? And that's really just, you know, when you're the owner, what you get to do is you can decide who the next owner could be, right? And so if you are really just interested in buying and selling and flipping speculative NFTs, then that's all you really care about. It's like, oh, give me some money, I'll make you the next owner, right? But that's really all you have on the blockchain itself. The rest of it comes from sort of what rights were granted to you when you purchase that particular NFT from the creator. And that is a licensing agreement. It's not maybe public, it's not on the blockchain what license you have, unfortunately. You have to go to the original, project website, and they'll have some terms and conditions that says, oh, you maybe, you have some licensing commercial rights, or maybe you don't. Maybe it's a CC0 that you bought, and therefore you have no right to any of the artwork or anything like that, and it's just public. So it's really depending on the project, and you have to do your own research on figure out what project you're buying into, what you actually own when you have an NFT.
Got it. Makes sense. I mean, I think based on all of that, what could be the benefit of using blockchain for IPs in your opinion? Obviously, we can cover a lot of things, but we just mentioned efficiency, transparency. What do you see?
Yeah, for me, to build on what Florence said, there is the what is important, so the underlying assets, but there is also the when. And the proof that you have to bring, because they can bring actually the same assets. There is this famous criticism of NFTs that you can just copy and paste it, and you have the underlying assets, but especially in the art world. But the most important thing is when you're going to license the underlying assets, which is the piece of art, so you can make money out of it, either by bringing it to a collaborative work that can be like a game, or just you can flip it. The real answer here is the when, and blockchain is the best proof to know when the asset has been created and who created it. So basically, if you can bring a stronger proof than the person who minted it on blockchain, and it's written when it was done and which wallet has minted if you can bring a stronger proof, then okay. But I don't see in any world a way of bringing a stronger proof than using the blockchain, because same things work for Bitcoin and for decentralized ledgers for financial assets. The strongest proof, of course, when you have a bank that holds your assets, they are protected and secure, when the bank is big and huge. But not all the people in the financial world, for example, in Africa, can store their money or their financial assets in a big bank. So they need to find some solution that's more easy to access. And for independent creators, it's not really easy, like to have lawyers and have documents with timestamps, etc., so you can like protect your art. But with blockchain, it's for everyone or anyone to timestamp their creation.
It is for sure a technical solution for the proof of ownership, without any doubt. But do you feel like, and I think it's a question for everyone, but we can start with the Lida. You can prove your ownership very easily with blockchain, but do you feel like you need the traditional licensing market to agree with blockchain technologies in order to prove the ownership of digital rights?
I think in terms of licensing marketplace, traditional licensing is all done with paperwork and lawyers and a lot of friction, and blockchain has an opportunity to eliminate some of the inefficiencies there. But blockchain technology on its own needs to comply with the broader legal structures that already exist for licensing, right? So I think the legal structure, we need to figure out how to have them recognize what's on chain as legal proof. So it still needs to tie into it. We can definitely do it ourselves, try to put things on blockchain and say, hey, this is how it should work. But then we need to get the sort of the legal structure to recognize it as well. And we need to play nice with that, because otherwise, when things do go wrong off chain, when you do a licensing of an on-chain IP off chain, you still need to talk with the legal structure there to, if they don't pay you the royalty that you do, right? So like end of the day, you still need to interface with the outside world.
Awesome. I mean, do you feel the same sentiment on your side?
Yeah, actually, just to bring a twist to that, I think when we are talking about big companies, for example, a huge studio that have licensing deals between them, yeah, of course, you just can't bring like to timestamp and to mint an NFT and say, yeah, I own all the underlying intellectual property. But for me, where we are already there and there is already a use case, it's what's happening inside companies, and especially like big companies that are working with smaller independent creators. So because they have their infrastructure, etc. But yeah, that can be very time consuming. It's like for an accountant that sometimes doesn't do a good job for like very small clients because they take too much time for not enough resources. And this is where blockchain proof of ownership can eliminate some friction, especially in between the big studios and the smaller independent creators to work on collaborative and collective works. And of course, there is also this, a lot of small independent creators are always scared to work with big studio on a freelance way, because they consider if they are employees, that's no problem. They have a contract about what they license their work, etc. And they are rewarded for it with a salary, so no problem. But sometimes when they work as freelancer, it's more complicated. And they become really scared, and they don't share everything, and so there is a lot of friction there about their own individual IP and the way they license it. So it can bring them more security if they can put their assets on the blockchain and then license it using any means the company is creating, because they know if there is a big problem there and they have to prove their ownership of the assets, they can do it because they put it on the blockchain. And so yeah, I think it's a win-win for both.
Okay, awesome. We talk about it, especially Florence, on when we talk about blockchain, we talk about traceability, and that's obviously something interesting to bring traceability to the rights that you have related to an IP. I guess I might already answer the question that will follow for you, Lida, which is how can blockchain improve one of the IP-related challenges, which is tracking rights, actually.
Right. I mean, I think we're thinking about what blockchain provides: transparency, immutability, all of that technical benefits. And thinking through like what exactly benefit for the licensee and the licensor, right? The IP holder and the sort of people who want to use that particular IP. And so for IP holders, right, the tracking of rights is, what rights you have, but it's once you start dividing it out, you're like giving out exclusive deals, like, oh, you have this region of the world, you have that region of the world. You want to make sure that you're keeping that consistent, so you're not like having invalid licenses. If let's say you license out all digital rights, apparel rights for this one company, and then you have like a overlapping exclusive right to some other company, that is a big problem in real world licensing. Sometimes that can occur. With blockchain, because it's on the blockchain, you can have that transparency that can trace it, so you can know, you can check that it's not overlapping. And in the future, maybe that can be automated through because of the composability of blockchains. So that's on the sort of licensor side, the IP holder side. The licensee side, tracking of the rights is especially downstream, right? If you have some kind of sub-licensable thing that you're creating from a particular license that you got, you want to have that lineage, that provenance of the IP traced all the way through from your product to even further downstream products. So I think that chain of custody of where all the IP come from, and as more and more IP get remixed, having that sort of all that be transparent is a very powerful tool for making sure you're getting paid the right royalties for your contribution, but then also giving enough flexibility so that your product can be used by other products, right? And I think that is an amazing piece of benefit that the blockchain can provide.
Yeah, in terms of transparency of chains of custody, actually, depending on every aspect of the creative process. I mean, having the opportunity to see some glimpses of the platform, I guess that's exactly something you try to emphasize in your platform. Could you maybe talk a little bit about your vision and idea around that?
Yeah, our platform is actually focused on collective and collaborative works. So, for example, we don't have the use case when you create an NFT, or because for us the NFT is just let's say it's just the certificate telling the rest of the world that you own the underlying asset, which is the IP. So in our platform, you can bring your asset and bring the NFT attached to the asset, so you can bring it to the collaborative work. Like, for example, you have a character and design it and you want it to be a part of a book, so you can bring it on the platform and you can use the NFT as a way to prove that you own the IP for your character. Or you can do it on the platform, which is you write your character, you write the story, the title, the subtitle, everything that you can, as Florence said, that can be immutable regarding the character, and then you mint the NFT on the platform to say, okay, I was the one who wrote it, so it's gonna be licensed to the collective or collaborative work, but still it's my IP. So, and you get a reward for that, and you get, in a very transparent way, the royalties that you're gonna get from this character. And as the whole work starts getting bigger, even the way that we disperse the royalties to the different stakeholder is also completely transparent, so you can track it. Yeah, so we don't really take on the case of when you license your character for another brand or another company, etc., because everything is predetermined. When you bring your character or when you design a character in a collaborative work on a platform, the goal for that is to license it to the collaborative work. So there are a number of use cases that normally are enforced by what it was predetermined for this project, it's exactly like the case when you have a freelancer who worked for company A and created a character for the company A because he was commissioned for creating this character. So he of course owns the IP for the character, but even if he's an employee, etc., it's a type of licensing, because maybe Florence can validate, but les droits d'auteur sont immutables in French, so you can't like absolutely get all the rights for a character, because maybe for a period of time, but not forever, etc. And it's the same. So you work for this collaborative work. The only difference is that you don't have a contract. You're free, and everything is predetermined by the spirit of the platform. And you get your royalties, you get your reward, and you license it to the collaborative work, which is what we call a playground in our case. So the way you do that becomes really frictionless for two reasons. One is that the platform is built for that. So everything is transparent, everything is online, etc. And of course, the underlying technology under the hood, which is the blockchain, it was bring the proof and make it possible to share it outside of the platform, and that you can, everything also lives on chain and not only online. On our platform, like you can see in our station, everything is online, but on Gokaden, everything is going to be online and on chain, and the rules are predetermined, like in Web2 platforms.
Yeah, and we are talking about collaborative work, as you said, based on the platform Gokaden and Florence. Florence, obviously, when we're talking about game, we already talk about collaboration depending on the game, but gamers can contribute to the scenario, the design of the game they love, depending on what the game developers allow. Minecraft is obviously one of the most famous examples with all the mods that existed in the platform. Who owns the lands, the modes creating by players or any kind of user-generated content today, without talking about blockchain?
Yeah, well, user-generated content are quite regulated, actually. I mean, by default, you have to understand that any user-generated content, if there is nothing included in the TNC of the publisher of the video game or in the TNC of the platform for blockchain video game, it means that by default, gamer owns the right on their creation. And that's a big thing because when you're a newbie in this industry and you don't know that, you might believe that because you give to your user editing tool to create or modify some assets, you own the right, but you don't if you do nothing, I mean. So first thing first, you have to include a specific provision into the TNC. And it goes further because if we take the recent French case law, the Court of Appeal told us recently, last autumn, that when it comes to user-generated content, the TNC have to provide a detailed assignment clause, and that this assignment, if this clause exists, have to be compensated one way or another. So this changed a lot of things because until then, most of the TNC of publisher platforms told us that all the mods created by gamers were the property of the publisher. And it was an exclusive an exclusive assignment, a perpetual assignment for free. So that changed a lot of things.
Got it.
So
Very
my
interesting.
advice is always take a look at the TNC, and it's the same for the NFT. I mean, we didn't talk about it, but by default, you don't own anything on an IP perspective. So users have to check what is provided, and video game company have to be very careful with this subject.
There is a need to communicate as well what could be done as well. So you talk about the TNC, but with blockchain, I think it might be also something that you would like to do differently. Or do you think that we will have to commit with the same rules, even if we're talking about game companies using blockchain or not? It doesn't matter. You have to stick with what kind of information to be able to put in your TNC.
Yeah, I mean, you will have to put this in some documents. Why? It could be in the DAO. It could be in the TNC. If it's a metaverse platform, you can put it in this TNC, the TNC of the metaverse platform. But they won't be implicit assignment from gamers to the video game company.
Interesting. Thanks a lot,
I mean,
Florence.
at this stage, maybe the regulation will evolve and the things will change. But for now, it's working like this.
And obviously, we all hope that regulation will come and will be easier for everyone to know exactly what to do in this situation and work alongside them as well on that matter. So yeah, thanks a lot, Florence. I think, Lida, coming back to you're providing a diversity of solutions to monetize the IP. For a large diversity of sectors as well, but gaming as well as an example. What specific application of blockchain can be used to licensing content with every activities you are doing yourself with Spaceport?
Well, I mean, I think for game companies specifically, they can think about IP and licensing in two ways. Right? One is inbound and one is outbound. Inbounding meaning you're looking for licensing. So, for example, digital apparel, right? If you have a avatar store, you want to have great graphic design. You may want to have some brands coming in and show off, your allegiance to, Marvel or DC or whatever, right? Brands that people know, and that brings, new revenue opportunities, obviously, for those digital assets, and bringing new, potentially, new users as well, who are interested in that property and now know that that property is on your gaming platform. And so that's one reason why you want to use IP is inbound. And then the outbound as well is if you have a really good character in your game, or that you created maybe with Amine's product, you want to license that out. You want to expose that IP to more people, right? And instead of just in your platform, you want to have it in other games or in Disney, like in a amusement park or something, right? Once you get big enough. And so that's like an outbound licensing deal. And both of those, is right now is very difficult to do because you don't know who's interested in your product. You don't know who you can license from. And so what we're creating is, because of the benefits of blockchain is once it's on, everyone can see it. That's why you can have an NFT for sale in South Korea and someone buy it in, India, right? Like you have this global transparent data. And so when you put your IP out for licensing on a platform, on the blockchain, anyone can license it and anyone can know that you're interested in licensing and that you have product and IP that you want to license out. And I think that's a big benefit of what blockchain can provide that a sort of a Web2 company is hard to compete against because, that data lives only in that company and that company controls it. Whereas once in the blockchain is permissionless, anyone can start using the sort of the smart license, smart contracts to license and sort of transact.
Yeah, it's exciting to see what's happening. I'm mentioning the PFP community because obviously a lot of IP licensing experimentation are coming from the PFP communities for the Bored Ape Yacht Club and everything around. So it's pretty exciting to see what you could do by capitalizing on the strong IP. Web3 IP when we're talking about that, but it's definitely something that we will check and we will see more and more based on the IP of digital assets in gaming and beyond. And coming back to you, I mean, on that, how do you grant to your community the liberty of owning the property rights of a specific project? They actively invest that investment in time and money.
Yeah, it's actually a very good question. And just coming back to what Lida said about the outbound licensing. Actually, we try to not reinvent the wheel, actually, and to try to understand what's happening in the Web2 world, in the traditional world of entertainment. And it depends how you created your IP. Actually, PFPs and the hype around PFPs may think very difficult for us to really start a Web3 project about licensing, because a PFP basically it's a collection that's been created by one artist, one studio, etc. And the underlying assets is very simple. You have an image basically. You don't have a background story for your character. He doesn't. It's not a part of a universe where there is links between the different characters, etc. So it's kind of created independently, and of course they use like automatic generation and scrambling of different characters, etc. So very complicated. We go like a step back and we say, okay, what's happening when you make some creative and collaborative work? So for example, let's say I was part of Nintendo and I created Pikachu, but to create Pikachu, I needed to base it on the Pokemon world, So I had to go from an existing IP, and from that I was maybe a freelancer. I went to Nintendo, I created Pikachu, and it was a huge success, this particular Pokemon. So what do I do with it? Do I have the rights? I own the IP for maybe Pikachu because I worked as a freelancer, etc., and I licensed it to Nintendo. But what do I do? I can license Pikachu to Warner Bros. Or to a food truck. That's very complicated. So this is why the notion of collaborative or collective work is very important. And this is what we do at Gokaden. What we do is that the first idea, the seed for a project is owned by an individual or a studio. So it can be, for example, a studio with an existing IP. Let's take an example again with Pokemon. So they have this idea of monster battle, etc., and they bring this IP on a playground and they say, okay, so fans, creators, come on, here you can join, you can start creating stuff. And people they create, they suggest character, they suggest items, they suggest location, and there are more complicated assets because there is a background story. They can be art, they can be collaboration on the art, etc., etc. But all of this is tracked. It's tracked by the infrastructure on the platform and putting it on the blockchain, so we can follow who created what, etc., and who is owned what. And even in this aspect, we are using our proprietary algorithm to calculate the ownership of everyone using predetermined rules. For example, for Gokaden, for the case of Gokaden, maybe there will be other platform doing the same thing, but for Gokaden, it's meritocratic. So, for example, you brought a character and it has a stake on the whole IP, and this stake is calculated about the popularity, how many people upvoted, how many people disliked it, how much it was used, how many art it generated based on this character, etc., etc. So you have a stake, and it's alive. It's exactly like what happens in a startup when there is someone who comes, works in the startup, brings a great algorithm, a great addition. So yeah, so he has more royalties on the whole project. And so the ownership, so when you collaborate on a project on Gokaden, of course you have the ownership because you hold the NFT, because you created the character, you minted it, you hold it, etc. But you created it using other assets that has been brought by other people. So there is a collaboration. So of course you own a part of the project that weights as that has the same weight as your what you brought to the project. And that's how we calculate this weight, etc. is completely transparent. How much royalties you're going to get is completely transparent, and your ownership is going to be insured. Even if in front of you there is a big company that brought the IP, maybe someday there will be like a huge company bringing their IP to Gokaden to start a playground and collaborate with fans and creator. But still, if you are like a small guy in your basement and created a small piece of music for a playground, it's going to be insured by the blockchain. You will know how much royalty you owe. You will know how much people like your music. You will know how many times it was used on the whole IP, and you will receive your royalties and of course your rewards if there was some incentives put on by the studio from the beginning, so you can collaborate on their playground.
That's awesome. What is awesome is everything related to the platform is really community based, and because you're providing some full transparency, it make it more powerful as well, in my opinion. So a lot of exciting stuff is happening based on what you could do with blockchain. But Lida and Florence, I will ask you as final question, what excites you the most in gaming and maybe beyond, in terms of what you could do in terms of IPs? Do you feel like we are in the early phase of everything we could do with that technologies, or you're seeing a lot of different interesting things as well happening now? Lida, starting with you.
Sure. In terms of,
No, you can have a moment if you want to think about it.
no. I think there's so many things to be excited by. But I think, your project looks great in terms of creating one particular project. And we think of ourselves as ability to then bridge that project with other projects, in a different community through a different licensing scheme. And that's kind of what I feel is one of the exciting parts of blockchain, is that remixing that collaborative culture that can be built among different projects, right? That's what people talk about blockchain composability come from. But we would like to see IP as composable, blocks as well on the blockchain. And so that's one piece, collaboration, IP Legos basically. And then the other part would be, user generated content. We were just talking about that, but turn that around to be like, user owned content, right? Is, you are owning that piece that you brought into a particular project, into the particular game that you're creating, and then you get compensated fairly for it. And that is, aligned with all the projects that, that we've been talking about today.
Awesome. Florence, what do you think? What excites you the most in the ecosystem when working with games around that topic?
I think it's a complete new world. We are in there since a couple of years now, but it's a very early stage of this industry. So really, sky is the limit with the project. So I'm surprised every time I heard about a new project. And for me, that is why it is exciting, because every time I start working on a new project, I have new legal issue to answer, and for an industry perspective, for a brand, it will be a wonderful new way of marketing to allow small brand to have a massive audience of their creation. It will also be a wonderful tool for creator and digital artists to monetize their creation and to earn their life with this creation thanks to NFT, provided that platforms allow easily the payment of royalty. But yeah, it's a new world, and it's really exciting.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate your time for the three of you. It was exciting to capitalize on your activities and the diversity of the action and the services that you are providing, that you will be able to communicate on this very soon for some of you as well. So it's pretty exciting to learn more about what's happening in the ecosystem based on IPs for gaming specifically, but also for any kind of creative elements. So thanks again for being here today and for sharing your expertise, and yeah, thanks again, and I wish you a very good day.
Thank you, Flavien.
Thank you, Flavien. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.